Morning all. Drenched I am, got soap walking to work this morning, all the way to work. Even my notes have all got wet. Tipping down, hideous weather. Good fishing weather though. What was it today? May the 1st. So only 6 weeks till the first day of the season, June the 16th. Hopefully. Right, first of all, if you're on my Facebook you've seen it, but if you're not, then you've got to see this. It's happened. You've heard the chickens in the background, and I told you they were sitting on eggs. Well, the other day I heard a shriek from the garage, from her indoors, and run out there, and this happened. Oh, there they are. It's happened. We've got chicks. Oh, that little brown grey one.
How cute.
How many have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh my word. Which one's going to be mum?
Ginger, I think. She's not very happy, is she?
Nice, eh? 6 new chicks. 5 yellow ones and 1 dark one. No idea which ones are going to be cockerels and which ones are going to be chickens, but hopefully they're all going to be chickens. Hens, sorry. But we shall see, only time will tell. I had a picture sent through on Messenger or whatever, of a guy that said, oh, I wish I'd known there was a battered book competition, and he sent me a picture of his copy of Obsession. And that was pretty bad as well, but like I explained to him, I haven't got an Obsession to give away. I think I've got 2 copies. I've got my one that Fat Sam's teeth marks are in. I think I've got 1 other copy now. Yeah, I have, because I've got 1 down by the computer downstairs, and I've got 1 up here. So I've definitely got 2 copies, but I'm not giving them away. To be honest, it's a miracle that this book ever came about. I mean, you think when I wrote it, donkeys years ago, I didn't have a computer. I didn't have a proper word processor. I didn't have anything really. But my brother-in-law back then, Mad Andy Brown, he worked for a company called Scion Computers. Now, most people, I'd never heard of them. You may not have heard of them. But they did various bits and pieces. And they did a handheld, this is way back in the day, early doors of like laptops and stuff. They did this little handheld thing. It was about the size of one of those large mobile phones, you know, the bigger ones. And it opened up sideways, like on a hinge, and the top bit was the screen, and the bottom bit was a keypad. But there was no room on the keypad for fingers, not that I could type anyway. It was just like 2 thumbs. So I actually typed this book, the whole book, on this Scion 5 it was called, and it was this little tiny handheld thumb-operated jobby. God, hark at that weather. And it took me forever, obviously. And at one stage I remember I went to Great Linford Lakes. They would run a competition called the Angling Masters, and it was like the Golf Masters, but it was an Angling Masters, and the sort of outline of the competition was it was a 48-hour competition, and it was all it wasn't just carp fishermen, it was all sorts of fishermen. There was quite a lot of us, and it was over, I don't know what's there must be 7, 8, 9 maybe more lakes, and a stretch of river that sort of meanders through the whole complex, and what you had to do was you had to catch 1 of every species of fish, or every species of fish you caught got weighed in, and the biggest one in the whole competition, the biggest roach, got say 20 points, and the next one got 19 and 18, the biggest carp. You see where it's going, and at the end all the points were totted up. I did this competition 2 years, I think it only ran for 2 years, or was it 3? Regardless, anyway, I was in this competition. But the week before it started, I thought I would go to Linford. You know, you could go up there and practice. So I thought I'll go up there because I knew nothing about it. This was the first year of the competition, and I'll dot about and I'll have a little look, and see if I can, find somewhere I could. A river carp was the ultimate. because there weren't very many in the river. But I found a little pool called the river pool, where the river came around a big bend and it had formed almost like a little tiny lake, but that counted as the river. And on this practice session up there, I chucked out, I caught 2 carp from this little, it wasn't even a swim, it was just this little bit. I'd broken some branches and got right in at the bottom of this pool, and I caught 2 carp. And I thought, that information like that, that's invaluable, you know. And in the competition, sure enough, I did catch, I think I caught the biggest river carp, I believe. I can't remember what it weighed, 18 pounds or whatever, neither here nor there. But while I was there, everywhere I went, I took this little Scion handheld with me. See, I do get back to the story eventually. Used to take this little Scion, and every spare moment I got, I was typing an obsession with carp. So, I finished doing my practice. I'd gone back to the motor, packed up, and I was driving home, and I stopped in the garage for fuel, and I got out, and the Scion was, for some reason, it was on my lap or something. And anyway, I got out, I put the Scion on the roof, you know exactly where this is going now, while I rummaged around and got my wallet and done the fuel, came out, got in the car, shut the car door and drove back. Now, it's from Limford to my house, it's a long journey. I don't know, let's say an hour and a half, something like that, maybe a couple of hours, don't know, a long journey. Obviously, when I got home, unpacked all my gear, went in, thought, right, I'll write some more in my book. Thought, where's the Scion? It's on the roof, but obviously it wasn't on the roof. So not only had I lost what I'd written at the lake, I'd lost everything that I hadn't backed up, a bit like I'm just about to probably do with my computer, to be honest. So yeah, it was a torturous affair, to be honest, writing this. And it's a miracle that it ever got out there, but I'm so glad it did. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sat in here, would I? So anyway, let's delve into the book. Where are we? We are at Wraysbury. We've gone off for the winter tour. Like I say, I can't remember exactly what time of year we gave up. I think it was November time or something, and went off on the winter tour. But there was one other thing of note that I've got to tell you the story. That would have been around November. Most of us at some stage will have been to a carp show, you know, one of the conferences, whatever you want to call them. But back in the day, in the 90s, there was only one. Nowadays there's was 4 or 5, they're sort of slowly dropping off. But back then there was only one, and that was the annual Carp Society conference. So everyone that wanted to go to a carp show, meeting, whatever you want to call it, all went to the same one. They were brilliant. They were very, very messy affairs. More people were at the bar than anywhere else. For a time they were in Wembley, and for another stage they were in Dunstable. In great big shows, you know, massive, great big arenas. And that used to be the old format of slideshow, then everyone walks around the show, and then bar, and then slideshow. You know, throughout the day there was various slideshows. I've done some of them. I've done an amazing one with me, Keith and Reg. There might have been one other, I don't know, where we set up like we were fishing on the stage, and there was something like 1,000 people watching us. It was the biggest one I've ever done by far. It was ridiculously busy. And that was very, very amusing. That was a good crack, that one. But anyway, I'd won this particular year, right? I'd won the Cobra Cup for the previous year's captures of 440s from Horton, or what I'd done on Horton at 440s. Now, the Cobra Cup was originally awarded to the biggest unknown fish of the year. But there aren't that many unknown fish, or weren't that many unknown fish. Now, the year before me, Jason Hayward had won it for the Black Mirror, and rightly so. Now, Jason was a very, very good friend of Phil's, and therefore a friend of mine, by association. So I knew Jay quite well. Jay had won it the year before, and I'd won it this particular year. So come the November or whatever it was conference, I had to go to the show, and Jason had to go to the show and present me on the stage, hand over the Cobra Cup, if you like. We all started off at Wraysbury, or that area. We'd hired or borrowed or someone had a transit van, quite a decent one for us. John Buckley, remember him from Horton, he was driving, and in the back, no seats, just all in the back. There was me, Tench bloke, I think there was pretty sure Shaky Dell was in there, Jason, there was a few of us. I can't remember, Jacko I think might have been there. A load of us basically, all rammed in the back of this dark blue transit with the Cobra Cup. And we set off in the morning, sort of mid-morning. John said he knew where the show was. I can't remember whether it was actually at Wembley or Dunstable, but that doesn't really matter. Wembley it might have been. Which is their sort of manner, you know, West London and West London and wherever it is, and they're all West London lads. So we'd set off in the back of this transit. Of course, the beer came out. We had loads of beer in the back of the transit. So the beer came out straight away. And then someone thought, it'd be a good idea, we'd drink it out of the cup. So we was pouring all these cans of lager. It's quite a big cup, this Cobra Cup. Filling it out with lager, it's getting passed around, and we're all in there smoking, and it's just like a haze of smoke in the back of this van. We were all rolling around. And it should have been, I don't know, let's say a half an hour journey. Anyway, about an hour and a half later, we're still driving round and round London. We don't even know, we're in the back, we've got no windows or nothing, and we're getting more and more pissed. And giving John so much stick, and he's getting more and more flustered because he's going the wrong way, and we're giving him loads of useless advice. Anyway, long story short, we eventually rolled up in the car park of the Carp Society thing. Back doors open, all this plume of smoke's come out, and all these anglers have practically fallen out with this stinking Cobra Cup. We got in there, straight to the bar, you know. The shows, like I say, back then, they were quite pissy affairs. So anyway, we had a good old show, and it's got to mid-afternoon, by which time we were all rolling. And I've had to go up on the stage with Jason to get this Cobra Cup. So we've gone. I remember going up the stage, they had these big wooden blocks, like used to have in schools to get to the stage, you know, where you have to almost climb up on them. Well, I had to literally climb up on them. I was legless. Got up on the stage, we did the handover. They awarded me the cup, and it was all I could do not to pick it up and give it that, because that's what I've been doing out of it all the way down there. Stunk of beer, absolutely stunk of beer. And I got £5,000, like £5,000. That was a fortune then. You know, £5,000, check for £5,000. I've come down the steps, proudly holding my cheque for £5,000. I've got to the bottom step. Phil Thompson, they're all in the front row, giving me and Jay, loads of stick. I've got to the bottom step with my cheque, and it's gone straight out of my hand. Phil Thompson's just stood up and said, "I'll look after that." I'm like, "What?" He said, "You owe me £2,500. And I was like, "Oh yeah." Like, shit. I remember what had happened the previous year, the last year on Horton. Poll tax or council tax or whatever it was called. There was that big can't pay and won't pay, and there was a lot of controversy, wasn't there, over that tax, window tax, whatever you want to call it. I didn't pay. I sort of took the stance that it was officially that it was unfair and unjust. That's not really what happened at all. I just didn't want to pay. Why give money away when you don't have to, when it says tax? So I didn't pay. What happened was they had what they called, I don't know, like an amnesty or whatever. They sent everybody who hadn't paid a letter. It got to a stage where they needed to recoup this tax. So they sent everybody that hadn't paid a letter. And the letter sort of stated that if you went to your local court on such and such a date, they'd sort something out. So I'm thinking, okay, fair enough. It's got to be paid. I'll go to the court and they'll say, what's your ingoings, what's your outgoings, blah, 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 and you'll pay £5 a week or £10 a week or whatever. I thought, at least it's off my back then. So I've trotted down the court. I haven't even got dressed up for it or anything. I didn't even think you'd go into court. I thought you would literally, there'd be a queue of people and, they'd take a few details and stamp the thing and away you'd go. So I'd gone in the court. I'd ended up in the court in front of the brief and sat there, and I just thought, oh, this is all a bit real, Anyway, if my little sort of, what do they call it, legal aid brief blokes there, matey with a wig's come out. He didn't have a wig really, but we'll add that little bit. Come out, sat down up there and read out all my details and what have you. Listened to it all go through and then said 14 days. And I'm thinking, can't pay him 14 days. And then they said, take him down. And I thought, you mean 14 days as in go to prison for 14 days? And I'm like, that can't be right. You know, I've come here, I thought we had an agreement. I thought I was going to pay you so much. But no, so 14 days in like prison, you know, where criminals go. I thought, no, I'm not having any of that. Weather's perfect out there for fishing. Anyway, they've taken me down and they've popped me in a cell. And I'm shitting it. I'm thinking, this really isn't the one. Laney can't go to prison. That's not happening. So the matey, sort of guard bloke, I said, what's the crack here? He said, well, you've got until the transport comes at, I don't know, let's say 2 o'clock in the afternoon. If you can make phone calls and that. If you can raise that money, the 2.5 grand or whatever it was, by 2 o'clock, away you go. So I thought, who do I know that's got money? Phil Thompson. It's that quick. I thought, Phil will bail me out. Please, please, please be on the end of a phone. So gone out, whatever, I've got a phone. Phoned up Phil, and luckily he answered. I said, mate, I am in proper bother here. You know, I'm actually in a cell. Yeah, he's just laughing on the other end of the phone. What have you done? So I hadn't done anything. I just gone to sort out my council tax, poll tax, whatever it was. Said, I'm banged up. He said, I'll send you a cake with a file in it. I said, no, mate, I want money. I need money. Please, please, please. And bless him. He got in his motor and he drove to his local police station or court or whatever it was and paid it. Paid him the 2.5 grand. And mate, he came down and unlocked the door and I was free to go. I was just like, oh, but that was a year before. I'd sort of forgotten about it a little bit. So that was my Cobra Cup winnings. Phil took the cheque until I had means to cash it. Cashed it in, gave him his lump, and I don't know what happened to the rest. Probably another dodgy motor and a decent night down to Percy, but that's by the by. So, back to the fishing. We always get back to the fishing eventually. February it was. We'd done the winter tour, showed you last time. Jacko's the only one that caught. He caught a couple of fish from a couple of different lakes. And we've gone back down, just me and Phil. Excuse me, just me and Phil. That's better. We've gone back down to Wraysbury. We fished the North Lake. It was the first week of February. We got on the North Lake. Can't remember a lot about that session. We didn't catch anything. Probably had a fire, probably got drunk. The second week of February, we decided we'd try the South Lake. And it was February the 10th. I know this because I read it in my own book. So February the 10th, which would have been, I believe, a Friday. I think I was fishing. I decided to do weekends because Phil was working in the week, and you know we were only there for the social. You can't have a social on your own. So February the 10th on a Friday, I've turned up. Phil's due down straight after work, about 5 o'clock or whatever. I've had a sort of half look around, and I thought Bryant's Point. Bryant's Point's perfect. It sort of sticks right out in the lake, so you're right out there anyway. It's nice and secluded. There's a lovely little fire site that we'd had going over the season there. There's a swim on the end, which I wanted because it was the better one. There's a swim on the side, the photographers, which Phil can have. So I've gone down there, gone along the point. Now, we'd noticed on the North Lake that the water levels were very high, but the banks of the North Lake were quite high, so it didn't really show how high they were. As I've come down Bryant's Point, I've got to the main point swim, and it's completely underwater. The water's, the level must have been up about 3 foot, but as you know, 3 foot up is a long way back if it's a shallow slope, which the swim, you know, is just quite low to the water. So the actual swim and where you'd bivvy up was it, I don't know, had half a foot of water in it. But just at the back of the swim, there's a little tiny swim that I'd never really got fished. You'd put a stroke rod out there if you're in the main swim, and it just fishes out just into the bay. But it was a little bit higher up, and it had a bit there where I could put, I think I had the old aquadome thing with me, So I've set up all my gear in there and I thought I'm definitely got to fish one off the end of the point. That's the main bit. And there's a bit about 40 yards out on the bottom, like a hard, not really a bar, but a hard strip. And the other features are way further out, unless you Phil Thompson and then you fish under the bushes. But anyway, I got in there, waded out, chucked about, managed to find this hard strip about 40 yards, and just thought I'll have one out there on its own. So I've set it up on the just single sticks, and I've got the other two in the bay. Now this rod I'd put off the end the rod was all right. It wasn't the secateured one. It was a half decent, sort of semi decent rod. The reel, though, it was one of these. Just absolutely ruined everything there, didn't I? Forgot I was attached to that by a wire. It was one of these, little 55. Where this little tiny handle is, that had been snapped off. I don't know, trodden on it or whatever. Slammed it in the car door or something. This handle had completely gone, and so had the pin that runs through the handle. So basically I had the arm of the reel with a hole. Now before I'd gone to the lake, I'd repaired it in the very, very loosest sense of the word. What I'd done, I'd got a small piece of threaded bar, like a fully set bolt, if you like, only tiny, what would that be, 5mm or 6mm or whatever. I'd put it through there with a nut, and I'd built up the actual shank of the thread with lots of nuts. So I had like 10 nuts this side, 1 nut that side, and then I'd got some normal masking tape, because it's all I had. That sort of white masking tape, and I'd wrapped it round and 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 round, and squidged it into a sort of a shape of a handle, and it was soft enough. Give it a wiggle. I thought that's good enough. That'll do. I'm not going to catch anything anyway. So that was the rod on the end of the point. Get up there. I put 2 rods out of where my bivvy actually was into the bay there. Everything was sorted. Got Fat Sam's bed all nice and comfy. Put a few logs ready for the fire for when Phil turned up about 5 o'clock. And started cooking, actually. I said to Phil I'd do him dinner. You know, he was working. I'd do dinner for when he turned up. So anyway, dinner was ready by about 5:30. Phil wasn't. He weren't there. 6 came, 6:30 came, 7, 8, 9, still no Phil. No mobile phones, couldn't phone and see where he was. I don't know what time he rolled up. I think it was about 10 o'clock at night. I've eaten my dinner, easy stone cold, on a plate with a lid over the top. Fat Sam's like that, just staring at it the whole time. Please give it to me, please give it to me. I was like, okay, if he doesn't turn up at all, it's yours. So I'm sat in my little dome tent. It's only got like a little round door. I can just about see the rod out on the point. 2 rods in front of me. Sat back, and 2 legs have appeared. And I know it's Phil, because Phil always used to wear cream-coloured cords. You know, those like rope cords, I think they used to call them, quite thick cord trousers. Most of the time carpet slippers, always a Winnie the Pooh t-shirt. If it was really cold, he'd put on one of them one-piece green quilted suit things. That was Phil's fishing gear. Anyway, these cords have appeared in the doorway. I can't see him, because I'm sat down and he's up there. And they're not very steady. They're doing that. And he's like, "You all right, Doug?" He says, "Sorry I'm late." It was a leaving do at work. One of his workmates had left. So they'd all gone to the pub and got slaughtered. And he was literally doing this. And then suddenly both legs went, whoop, and done the crab dance and disappeared. And I've come out the dome and he's in the bushes. And he's sort of picking himself back up, slaughtered. So got the chair out, sat him down. We've probably had another beer, had a smoke. He's gone off to set up his gear. I said, "I'll be down in a bit to give you a hand." So he's gone. I've heard him clattering and banging about, laughing to himself. So eventually me and Sam got up, wandered down to his swim to help, you know, took pity on him. Oh, he'd eaten his dinner, and the first thing he did was sat down and ate his dinner stone cold. He was starving because he was pissed. So he's gone back to his swim, setting up. I've gone along, like put the last bits and pieces in, just put the last peg in, and I've heard like beep, 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 beep from my swim. It's tufty. It's obviously a tufty or a coot or some sort of duck, water chicken of some description. And then it's just gone, beep, beep, absolute one toner. And I'm like, that can't be right. It's not going to be a fish, is it? So I've gone charging down there, and it's the rod on the end of the point. So I got my wellies on, I've waded through the mire, the flood, and the rod's proper going. Little reel spools going round, so I tightened it down, bonked into it, held onto my makeshift handle, and it's just gone. It's flattened the rod, and it's going and going and going and going. It must have done 50 yards in the first burst. Bear in mind I'm fishing at 40, it's done 50, and I've got one of them little reels on, so I've got about 10 yards left. A bit like Phil was back on the first session when he had the big one from there. Anyway, it's going and going. And then it started kiting. I've managed to stop it taking line, and it started kiting right round into the bay, like past where my actual swim is now. But because of the flood, all the trees that normally just hang in the water, I couldn't get down to the actual front of the proper swim. So it's almost like they're further out because I'm further back, and it's kited round and round and round, and the line's cutting really fast going round, and eventually, it's dragged the line like right towards the trees. So I've sunk the rod tip as much as I can, hoping not to snag them, but failed. So the line's now snagged through the overhanging branches, which are subsurface now, just at the right hand side of my swim. So I've started pulling it. It's great. It's grating. It's horrible. It's coming back. But it's still quite a way past these, in the bay somewhere. And I'm pulling and pulling, and it's gone a bit solid in the branches. And I'm thinking, oh God, I said, Phil, it's bloody carp. It's February. I'm at Wraysbury, and I've got a carp on the end. I was so excited about that, and then I started getting deflated because I thought I'm going to lose it here. It's just going to rub through the mono, through the nylon. So anyway, I tried pulling, giving it some, and all of a sudden there's a crack, and the rod's flown back like that. I'm like, oh, I was convinced I'd lost it. And then I see the line sort of picking up and wound down, and what the crack and the give was the branch had snapped off underwater, and it was just me retrieving a bit of slack, and I wound down, and the fish had actually turned and come back out the bay and was out in front of me. So I carried on playing it, and it felt like a good fish, I just kept repeating to Phil, it's February, I've got a carp on at Wraysbury. Just couldn't believe it. Anyway, played this fish in. After that, it wasn't too much drama. Once it was out in front in the deep water, not too much drama. Obviously, there's no weed at that time of year in February. He's come up a few big boils on the surface. Obviously, it's pitch black. This is like late by now. A few big inky black boils on the surface. Phil's gone out there with a net. And bosh, in it's gone. He's gone, we got it. And we're like, God, we've bagged one, at Wraysbury. Incredible. Anyway, pulled the net back in towards us, gone to lift it, looked in, oh my God, it was just like a replay of when Phil's first fish. It's Mary. It's the biggest fish in the lake, and at that time, probably almost definitely the biggest fish in the land. In February, half pissed at Wraysbury. On a bait just chucked out off the end of this flooded point. Wasn't even expecting to catch a tench, A coot would have been a bit of action. And I've caught Mary. And we're just, oh my God. And the mad thing was, at the time, everybody had been talking about Mary breaking the British record. Now back then, it was still the Bishop from Redmere, 51.8 or 51.12, or Chris Yates fish. That was the British record, and had been for some while. And everyone had been saying, if Mary comes out in the winter, but not that it ever will, or at prime time, this could be a new British record. So I'm thinking, that's just like, the whole thing's fried my brain, Phil's still chuckling away to himself over the whole affair, because he's far more drunk than I am. And we're just thinking, what do we do, or what actually do we do here? And then we remembered that there was one other angler on. We'd heard that Pete was there, Sir Pete Springate. He was up somewhere of the North Lake or somewhere that way, no Carp Bay, North Lake, whatever. And Phil said, I'll go and get Pete, he'll know what to do. And then we've got a witness for the weigh-in and all of that. So fair enough. So we've secured the fish. Phil's shot off. And I've just sat there in this little crappy old low chair that I had with my dog, just like shaking my head in disbelief, just thinking, it's February, it's Wraysbury. I've caught Mary. It's just, I couldn't believe it. I just literally couldn't believe it. Anyway, some time later, of her crashing and bashing through the bushes and laughing and what have you, Phil's managed to locate Sir Pete, and the two of them have come all the way back, got in the swim, tied the scales up to a tree, tested everything. We thought, this is going to be the weight is going to be quite important. Not that it wasn't that important to me, but obviously if it's going to be a British record, you've got to do things in a certain order, and you've got to know that you're right. So anyway, we zeroed all the skits, things. Pete's checked everything. Phil's tried to, like that, can't even see it. We've got this monster of a carp out. Put her up there on the scales. Span straight round, stopped clean dead on 49 pounds and 15 ounces. Yeah, 1 ounce under 50 pounds. And we just roared laughing. It's just, what a perfect weight, It's just, I don't know, it's just poetic. It's just funny. 1 ounce under 50 pounds. Still gives you something to go for, doesn't it? But like I say, biggest fish in the lake, probably biggest in the land, maybe. Put her down on the mat. Thought, what do we do now? Sack her up. I mean, back in those days, sacking fish. Nowadays I do all my photography at night, but back then, everybody sacked fish at night was the done thing. So I got a great big carp sack, sacked her up, put her in the margins. Pete's totted off, said he'd be back for the photos at such and such a time. I don't think we went to bed. I think we lit the fire and sat there just replaying everything that had happened, the madness of the whole lot, really. But I mean, if your bait's in the water, you're in with a shout, aren't you? But I wasn't expecting that, not for 1 second. Eventually, it grew light, and I waited till a semi-respectable hour because I had a journey to make, and that journey was to Horton. I had to go to Horton. So I walked round the back of Bryant's Bay into the Douglas Lane, got in the old tank, drove over to Horton. I knew Keith would be there, Robbie's weekend, so I knew a few of the lads would be there. So I walked round the back, seen where Keith's fishing, wandered along there, trying not to give it away, trying not to smile. It wasn't happening. Bounced along, big grin. Hey, come on fella, wind them rods in. You've got a job to do. Got some photos to be taken. Oh my God, what you had? So I've got her. So he wound in, Robbie, a few of us went in a little convoy back over to Wraysbury. All trotted round there, laid out the stupid little mats we used to use at the time, put this enormous great big carp on top, and it's just like everyone's wow. Done the photos. With the photos, I don't know quite what happened. There was loads of people. I can't even remember who was there taking photos. I've probably got about 4 or 5 prints of it, and that's it. And I'd say only 2 of them are any good. The others are out of focus. I've got one upright and one sort of long ways, one landscape, is the correct term, which I'll ping up. Which, they're okay. They're still not brilliant. But it doesn't matter because it's all in here, It's all lodged in the memory banks. That was just, what a morning, what a session, The whole thing was just incredible. And for ever afterwards, even now I look back and just think, did that really happen? It's just like just living in a dream. It's just an amazing, but your baits are in the water, like I said, and you're in with a shout. So I was in with a shout, and it was my turn on what we used to call the Wraysbury Wheel of Fortune. Spins and spins and spins, and occasionally it stops on your name, and it certainly stopped on my name that day. The week after Mary, we decided now that, why did we ever leave Wraysbury? We were going to fish it right through till the end of the season, which was 15th of March. So this was the 10th of February, so next week 15th. So we had a month left. We thought we only had a month left. So next week I'm obviously back in the same swim. And I did say last week about regretting not having any photos of tackle, but had no reason to take them. But Chris Ball came down. He worked at the time for one of the angling papers. That was the Mail, the Times. It might have been something. Might have been a magazine. I don't know. It was something I can't remember. It's the truth. But we knew Chris anyway. And Chris Ball came down. You know, he wanted to do this big story of me catching. It might have been Carp Talk. I don't know. The weekly one. Anyway, he wanted to do this big story of me catching Mary in the middle of winter. So he's come down with cameras and notepads and what have you, dictaphone and whatever, all professional looking. And he strolled down. I'm sat up on the end. The water level had dropped drastically in a week. It just literally gone right back almost to normal. So I managed to set up in the proper swim. And he's come down and he's taken some photos, which I'm going to put up in a sec. He's taken some photos of my tackle, and like I said last one, I've got so few, but these, and I wish I had more, because when I look at these it just brings back so many memories. So we're going to start off, there's a picture of my rods. They go up now you can see in that picture, if you look at the back rod rests, I mentioned them before, they're my Wraysbury stick rod rests. I used to leave them in every swim, just make them with secateurs, safe carrying them. One of those reels, I think it's the left-hand one, which you can't quite see the handle. I might have a close-up, I might not. Is my repaired reel. I've got mismatched alarms, mismatched rod, mismatched everything. It's just fishing gear, you know, which is why didn't need to take photos of it. I knew what it looked like a pile of sticks. And then we've got this photo. Now this photo is obviously me making a cup of tea or whatever. And that's just, there's so many memories in that photo, you know, Fat Sam, obviously. The Argus sleeping bag. We all had, in winter, we had those multicoloured Argus sleeping bags. They were 13 tog, I still remember that, and that apparently was really, really warm. They were proper jazzy colours, and I'd covered mine with that shitty old blanket. I always used to take that blanket in the winter fishing. It's got a great big hole, if you look on the top of the bed, where I'd put a hot pan on there and burnt a big hole in it. I've got some sort of a wire mesh bivvy table that I had for years, because I don't think you can get bivvy tape, proper ones then, part of a camping set. For some reason I've got a sodding great big car battery. Now I've racked my brains to remember why I had this car battery. And maybe I was in the winter, I started taking the black and white portable TV that I used to have a pit for, a little crappy plastic thing. I don't know, I can't remember why I had a car battery. The forerunner of the Ridge Monkey Power Pack, I suppose. A bit of carpet, because obviously where the water had gone down it was disgustingly soggy and whatever. I remember that carpet being on the floor in my house at one stage, so I'd obviously re-carpeted over the period and kept it all for sort of bivvy carpet. That was the done thing. You still find it. You know, I was on another lake in the same area for the last 2 or 3 years, and under the grass and the moss occasionally you'd see a little bit of something that didn't belong, and you pull it all apart and there's carpet from years ago that's just grown into the ground. You know, everyone had a square of carpet back then. But yeah, they're great photos like that. A moment in time, frozen, you know, amazing, without just having a fish in it. You know, you can see everything else that was involved. So yeah, we fished on, and like I said, we thought we had 4 weeks left. Now, about 2 weeks into that period, so with only a couple of weeks of the season left to run, some amazing and quite strange news broke that they'd abolished the close season. They being whoever, the powers that be. Not on the rivers, but on the lakes and still waters, they'd abolished the close season, which meant that we could just fish on. Certain lakes, some lakes took it on, some lakes stuck to the old season. It's all changed now, you know, we don't have we've got a closed season this year, enforced, but we don't have a closed season now, but some lakes have certain periods when they shut. Horton was going to keep its closed season, but Wraysbury one was going to abolish the closed season, which was just, we didn't really know how we felt about it. You know, we were used to the closed season. You get 3 months off, that's what you do. You feed the fish, you make plans, you regenerate, you start again. But it weren't going to happen. We could fish through. Now, obviously, we thought we thought March would be amazing, because the end of the old close season always came just as the fish woke up. At the end of the old season, always came just as the fish had woken up, you know. The last week, I remember on Horton, if anything got caught, it would be the last week of the season. And you think, God, if only we could fish on. But the reality turned out, as it often does, to be something entirely different. That little wake up, which nowadays, to be honest, happens more in February than in March, is a window of opportunity, I call it. It's a little period when the fish wake up briefly and then stop again. And it's not until it gets warm that they actually properly get about, which would be in this new section of the year we get to fish, April sort of time. So we fished on, and March wasn't at all what we thought it would be. It was wet, it was windy, and we didn't, I don't think I had one more fish, I think. I had one fish from Brian's Bay, a little common. And we dotted about. We thought maybe the fish were more active than we thought, so we tried chasing them about, or guessing where they'd be. We fished it at North Lake again. We fished up the Douglas Lane, and I remember one particular night I was sat in the Finger Bays, and it was sort of, it would have been just breaking into the new territory. So the end of March. I was sat in there, had a fire going. I was on my own. And the shootist appeared, wandering around all camoed up with a big gun, and just come in and sat by the fire, and we had a couple of beers and we were chatting and that. And I had my newest crap boat with me, the orange semi-inflatable, more deflatable, I think you'd call it, the amount of holes in it. And he said, I'm surprised you go out in that. I said, I don't like to, I don't like to go out in the wind and what have you. It's just not safe. It's not stable enough. He said, I've got a boat. And I had seen him in a proper sort of rowing boat occasionally. He'd go out to an island and spend the evening or the night on an island, kill as many things as he could, rabbits and what have you, and then row back to his house. Now his house, the shootist house, was one of the Douglas Lane houses that backed right into Bryant's Bay. So literally, if you were stood on one bank of Bryant's Bay, there was a load of fences, small like picket fences, and one of the gates was his back garden. Anyway, tops out, he's got this rowing boat, green or camoed up rowing boat, proper one, I think it was fiberglass rather than wood, but normal pointy front, flat end, quite large, proper boat. A couple of Rollicks, I think they call them Rollicks, I said, on the side. It even got a couple of oars. They didn't match. One was short and one was long, but he had a couple of oars. And he said to me that I could use it as much as I liked. He said he hardly ever uses it, and if it had come in handy, it was mine. And I was like, happy days. And he even gave me, off his ring, he took off a key to the padlock on his back gate. He said it's under the tree on the left as you go in. You don't have to go to the house or anything. You just come in through Bryant's Bay, unlock the gate, drag the boat out, lock the gate back up, use it as much as you like. I was like, this is going to change my fishing. This now meant that, like some of the others did, I could pull up in the Douglas Lane car park, just walk 50 yards up the way, come back in a rowing boat, load all my gear into the rowing boat, me, the dog, and paddle off. Look for fish, move around the lake. Wouldn't have to do all the walking, wouldn't have to carry my gear all the way around, because it's a monstrous trek if you're fishing far from the car. So I thought, yes, please, thank you very much. This will, make a big impact on the way I fish Wraysbury over this coming, however long I stay, but definitely over this new spring period. But what I was more intent in, rather than the boat fishing and that, to start with, was April, because I knew that come April, those fish would go. I was sort of hoping that those fish would do what they do every April, and that's move up to Sunnymead's Corner and that railway bank where we used to feed them. We'd pre-bait for them. We'd practically hand feed them. The year before, that's exactly what we'd done. And I thought, they don't know there's no close season. There's going to be a period. There's going to be, even if it's only one day, there's going to be a moment in time when those fish come up to Sunnymead's, all happy as you like, for their free food. And I'm going to be there with my rods. And I was determined to be the one who was there with rods. But it was all down to the weather. They weren't going to go there when the weather was shit. It was going to have to be quite warm. 20 degrees, I reckon. That was going to be the turning point. When you get that one day in April, you know, when the sun comes out, and suddenly you're all in t-shirts and you think it's summer. So I was just watching the weather all the time for that first break, that first sort of summery day in April. I can't remember what we used for a weather app back then. Obviously, it wasn't XC Weather on your mobile like it is now. Probably just the telly. Probably, what's it called? Spring Watch or whatever it was back then on the telly. Michael Fish, he was the weatherman, wasn't he? No gales tonight, missus. Or teletext. Any of you remember teletext? That was it was on the telly and on your remote control. Very, very old-fashioned, but used to give you the weather, the BBC weather. But whatever. When I saw it was coming, it was going to be there. I don't know. Let's say on a Tuesday morning or whatever day was going to be the first day. It was the temperature was just going to soar and it was going to go up to 21 degrees. I saw this the day before. I thought I've got to get there. Unfortunately, I knew that Phil had the week off, taken a week's holiday from work, and he was at the lake already. And I knew Tench Bloke was down there. As far as I knew, they were the only two people, but I couldn't be certain. But I knew that those two were definitely at the lake. So I packed everything up in the old tank, binned off any work that I had to fish on this particular day. That morning, bright and early, crack of dawn, steaming up the M25. And I got there, and sure enough, there was only Phil's and Tench Bloke's motors there. Now, they know the crack. And they'd hand fed them in the same spots. We'd fed them together the previous spring. And I was just thinking, one of them is going to be in Sunny Meads. I knew Phil had been fishing the lawn where I moved out of, where Shaky Dell caught those two the year before. I knew he'd been in that, which is only just up the way, probably a few hundred yards, 200-300 yards up the way. Tench Bloke, I didn't know where he was, but I thought someone's going to have looked in Sunny Meads. By the time I got there, it was already hot. Maybe not in the 20s, but it was right up there, high teens, 18, 19 degrees. It was warm. Must have been probably, mid-morning, whatever. It was going to be a scorcher, an absolute scorcher. So I've got my bit of tackle, not an awful lot. Got my dog, parked in the NatWest, come through, and it's a few hundred yards up the path, and I've got steaming down. You can't see Sunny Meads Corner because of the trees. You're on a path behind a long skin of trees. It's not till you get to the corner and turn right, that is Sunny Meads Corner. That's the first glimpse you get of the swim. I say swim. Don't imagine an actual swim, okay? Imagine if you're walking around a lake and you go around the corner there and there's a tree, one sort of overhanging. Yeah, it sort of leans forward over the water. If you climb up it, you're over the water. There's this one tree and there's a little path that's just been trampled by people going in, climbing the tree and coming out. And that's it, really. The dog walker path is right behind you, probably a rod length behind you. And there's a small, flatter ground bit of area with grass and nettles on, which would just about take a bed chair. Bivvy would be a bit of a push. That's it. It's just a gap, basically. It's not an actual swim. So I've come steaming down now. I've come around the corner, and there's no one there. I was fully expecting to see Phil in there with a rod or Tench Bloke, but there's no one in there. I couldn't believe it. God. So I've quickly sort of thrown all my gear on the floor there. I thought, it's mine. When you really want to swim, that feeling, and you get it. It's like you staked your claim. Chuck your gear on the floor, wee in the bushes like a dog. It's mine, my ground. So straight up the tree, got up the tree. I was only halfway up the tree and I could see them. They were there, So I've gone up a little bit further and I looked and there's 3 big mirrors right in close. There was a couple of other fish which I didn't pay a lot of attention to, smaller ones, didn't pay a lot of attention to them, just out the back, a bit lower down. But there was 3 mirrors right where we'd fed them the year before, milling about, just looking for food. The water there's gin clear, it's about 4 foot deep, proper shallow for Wraysbury. and you can see all the scrubby weed, but because it was early, there's still clear patches, like natural clear patches there, which obviously the fish are coming in and looking at. These 3 mirrors were all around mid-30s, 35 pound, big fish, dark, just proper fish. Now I'm excited, I'm shaking, I've got the adrenaline going. I'm always quite cautious, I try and be quite cautious in these situations. The overriding urge is just to grab a rod, put a bait on and plop it straight down there. It's the worst thing you can ever do. That little bit of time spent in observation of exactly where they're going will stop you having to recast. And, you know, your chances start right up there from the second your bait goes in, and then they come down. The longer you're there, the more the fish know you're there. A recast is like a big slope on the chart, you know. A rechuck will definitely scare them a bit, spook them. So I looked, I thought I'll watch for a while. So I watched, I was looking at these fish. Now, the closest one to me, real dark on his back and sort of faded down into this lighter cream colour on his belly, few scales down his side. I could see him as clear as that, you know, he's turning and he's twisting, and I've looked and I thought, that's the pug. You know, that's the one of the ones I should have caught June the year before when I moved out, and that's the one that Dell had, the first one that he had. Which had been, you know, an unknown basically up until then. And I've looked, I thought, that's the pug, you know, I can get my own back on him. And I've looked at these other two, couldn't quite make out what the other two were. I thought it's probably his mates, you know, he's one of the 3 amigos. It was probably the short fat linear, and the other one was a bit further down. I thought, you know, there could be the mystery leather that we used to see, which is, it didn't look quite big enough, so I wasn't sure. I put them all at mid-30s. Anyway, I'm proper excited now. So I've come down and I've pulled my tackle back from the bank onto sort of the back of the dog walker's path. There's some woods there, and then you've got the railway line right next to you. So I've gone back in the bushes and started opening stuff up. Fat Sam's curled up asleep at the base of the tree. Got a rod and that out, and I was in a right old fluster, opened the rucksack to get my bait out, and there's 2 bags of bait in there. And then I remembered, I thought, Phil said, could I bring him up some bait? We was on the old original mainline Grange bait then, which was an excellent bait, and I'd got his bait. And I thought, what I'll do is I'll stop, I'll take a breath. They're not going anywhere, you know. I don't want to bodge it up. I'll take his bait down to him. I was pretty sure he was still in the lawns, but again, you couldn't see it because you had the Scar Island in the way. So I've taken his bait out and I've legged it up the path behind the Scar Island, came around the corner, great big lovely lawn area, and this Phil sat there and Tench Blake with him. So I couldn't wait. I got up there, thrown the bait down, and I said, you have just missed the opportunity of a lifetime. Yeah, the Wraysbury Wheel of Fortune is spinning down there for anyone that wants to sit under it. And what? I said, they're there. They're in Sunny Meads. I've got to go. And so I turned around, legged it back down the path. Got halfway down the path and sort of not tripped over, but stubbed my toe on something in the grass on the side of the path as I've gone, and didn't feel like a stick. So I just sort of looked as I've gone past. Thought, oh my God! I've gone down there and rummaged around and pulled it out. And do you remember when I was telling you the story of catching cluster on the work night thing? And I said I'd lost my torch. It was my torch. I must have dropped it one evening coming back from whatever, the off licence probably, on the way back round to where we were camped up. And it was my rubber workman's torch, my indestructible thing. And I've looked at it and it's all covered in, you know, the winter's worth of moss and shit and what have you. I picked it up and sort of shook it, pressed the button, it's only come on, still works. I'm like, my God, these things really are indestructible. Well, that's a result, that's a good sign. Stuck it in my pocket, gone back to the swim, climbed the tree and had a look. So they're still there, so I've got a little pocket full of boilies by this stage. So I've waited till each one's like not looking. I mean, they're right below me now. I'm out on a branch there's a branch that leans right out, so you can get literally above the fish, or above the spots. So every time it's turned away, I'm just flicking one boilie, plop, watching it go down the 4 foot and settling, plop, plop, and eventually I've managed to get, I don't know, a dozen baits on this. There's two main obvious little spots, only tiny, like, you know, dinner plate size, but I've managed to get baits on and around these spots, and the fish are looking proper interesting. In fact, one's come in, I think it was the pug, has come in straight away and gone dump, 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 taking 3-duck pack man, and then gone off and joined the others, and then another one's come in, bump, bump, taking a couple, and I thought, this is going to be so easy. It's just like, it's unfair, you know. And in your mind, you're thinking that as well. You're thinking, this is the close season. It wasn't the close season anymore, but it is, isn't it? Really, you know. I thought, sod it, you know. If I don't do it, someone's doing it. The people are fishing all over the country. The close season's been abolished. You've got to get that in your head, ain't you? So, I've come down from the tree. I've finished getting everything set up. I was using a 1 ounce lead, long nylon hook link, normal little size 6 super specialist and single range boilie. From the bottom, I couldn't see anything because of the glare on the water. Couldn't see. I knew they were just there. We're talking 2 rod lengths out. So I was doing everything as quiet as possible, but I wasn't going to risk just chucking it. I'd seen the way they were feeding. They were just visiting these 2, or only picking up the baits on these little clear bits. So I come up with a genius plan. I leant the rod up against the tree, half climbed the tree, then lifted the rod up, put the rod butt between my teeth, so it's hanging down, wound the rig right up to the tip eye, and I've climbed up this tree. Like I say, there's this branch you can walk out on, which makes it easy, but I wanted to be up a bit higher, so I've got the perfect sort of view down through the water. So I got up there with the rod between my teeth, and then sort of wrapped myself around the bough of the tree. From then, it was just a case of getting the rod in position and sort of pendulum style swinging the little lead forwards and backwards until it was over the spot, taking my finger off the spool, watching the rig fall down through the water, trapping it and just donk, lowering it on the spot. Landed absolutely perfectly. I could see my hook bait, I could see my lead, and I could see 2 or 3 other baits, you know, 3 ones that I'd put in just behind it, and I could see the fish just a few feet away. Couldn't get the rod down. That was the problem, because I sort of brought it up through the branches and there was branches in the way. So I've got the bail arm open, held the rod right out as far as I can to the side, and then just thrown it like away from the tree, like, you know, branches below and above it, and thrown it away into the bushes on the bank, and scooted down the tree quietly as I could, gone along right by the margins, grabbed the rod out, the little reeds or nettles or whatever it was. Flicked the line all over, got it nicely sunk, set it up with a buzzer on the front and probably a little Wraysbury stick on the back or whatever, and sat behind me on the tree. And it was just so exciting. You can imagine, you know that the fish are right there. I could see the little pinprick bubbles coming up where they were picking the odd boilie up. And from the bank, when you're up high, it sometimes looks further out, where I could see these bubbles. They were so close, rod length or whatever, rod length and a half. It was just like, I knew I was going to get a bite. It wasn't if I was going to get a bite, it was just how quick it was going to come. So I sat there for a full, minute, I suppose, which felt like hours and hours. And I had to have a look. So I shot back up the tree. Well, I haven't got up it, but I've sort of got a 6 foot, one leg up, and just looked. And I can see the pug. And he's coming in and he's taken 2 boilies and he's got 2 more to go. Yeah, one of which is mine. So I got back down, got behind the rod. Just got in position, and I see the line flick like that. It's still the odd pinprick coming up. It's flicked like that, and then it's pulled up tight, and the tip's pulled down, and I've hit into the fish, and the rod's just hooped straight over, like that. 1 second of pressure, and then ping, and I'm on my arse in the net was behind, and I'm just like, there's a massive bow wave going off across out of Sunnymead's corner, well, more than one bow wave. It just erupted, and I'm sat there just with a broken line. I thought, oh my God, what have I done? After a couple of minutes of just head in hands, pulled the line down, had a look, and it's battered, not from hooking the fish, it's already, I've stripped off another 10, 20 foot, and it's absolutely battered. It's been all winter, 12-pound nylon, been dragged around the lake, everything in and out, whatever. I hadn't checked it, my own fault. I mean, what a complete twat, basically. The golden opportunity, absolute giveaway opportunity for the pug, and I've totally and utterly screwed it up. I was distraught, absolutely distraught. after a while, I've stripped off loads of line until I'm down to some good stuff. So I've not got a lot left now, but I'm only fishing there. Tied up, broke a bit off rope link, tied up a new rig, another lead on. So I do it properly this time, as in sort of set them for the night, sink the lines, get everything down and make sure that the line's strong enough to hold a carp. I climbed up the tree and had a look, they'd gone. There wasn't a single fish in that corner. I weren't sure they were ever coming back, to be honest. So I've gone up there and managed to get them on the spots. I was breaking little sticks and throwing them out the tree and then running down and seeing where the sticks were in relation to the spots. One I'd cast from the tree, the other one I'd done with the floating stick method. You sort of get 3 sticks, little ones, and you wait until they're over the spot, like one at the back and one each side, and then you run down the tree and cast between them like goalposts. So I've done that with one, done the other from the tree, got 2 perfect. Sunk all the lines, settled down. I was still absolutely gutted. And then Phil and Tench Bloke come wandering down just to see how many I'd caught. So I had to tell them the story of what idiot I was, you know, how I'd completely screwed it up. They didn't laugh too much. In fact, Phil, bless him, he went up the offing and came back with a big bulging carrier bag full of lager. So we sat and drowned my sorrows collectively. And then they totted off. And I'd been up and down the tree a couple of times, like looking and really seen an awful lot. And the last time sort of it was getting towards dusk, and I weren't expecting the fish to come in. It's not sort of a night, you know, you imagine they're in the day in the sun, not at night. But the last time I went up, I saw a couple of fish much further along the margins, and from the previous close season, I know their route, and their route basically is the exact route Phil had taken from the off licence. They go across the North Lake to the bottom of the Sailing Club lawn near the offie, and then they come along the bushes parallel with the path, the dog walker's path. Now they come all the way down these bushes until they get right in Sunnymead's corner where you can't quite get them, and then they come round in front onto this shallower piece there. But they were still quite a way out along these bushes. But I thought, well, there's still fish about. It might be a different group of fish, whatever. There's still carp. You know, they're not all in the South Lake. They're not gone as far as they can from me. So there's half a chance. So I got my little bed chair. So there was only room for a bed chair. I got that set there, just sat on it. Rod's right in front of me. Everything was set. It was just a case of if they'd come back, you know, that day, the next day, or ever. A bit later that evening, sort of just after dark, Tench Bloke's come back. Sat down, just side by side on the bed chair, like I say, right next to the rods, having a beer and just chatting away. Just out of the blue, I mean, I didn't know there were fish just there, but completely out of the blue, left-hand rod's just gone, wheeze away, like eruption right in front of us. I've just leant forward, grabbed the rod, hooked into this fish. It didn't do an awful lot, charged about a little bit, but sort of generally just in the margins in front of me. You'd think in that shallow water they'd be off wanting to get out there in the deep, but it didn't. You know, up and down a bit. Wasn't any major dramas. Put up a good scrap of itself. Wouldn't come up off the bottom. It was like sort of hugging the bottom down in front of me. You know, Tench Blake's got the net. He's come up. And, you know, we can see the swell, see where the fish is. Saw a flash of fish. He slid the net under it, and then he's gone. And I'm like, you know, such a sort of a payback. You know, relief having lost one and being almost in tears. My plan has worked. I've got a fish in the net. We've pulled him up. Plopped him on the mat and had a look, and it's the Hoover, the one that Phil had. Great big gob on him, this big slopey head. I was well chuffed, absolutely over the moon with him. So I thought we'd sack him up till the morning. And down to my left, there's lots of overhang. It's quite snaggy further along the path, but it's deeper there. It's like it's only the corner that's got this shallow. So as you go off of this shallow bit, it drops down 10 foot under the bushes further along. So I've sacked him up and I've taken him down there, and I've got my rubber torch to see the way. Got in there, and again there's a tree, but this was right by the water's surface of the water that went out. So I've sort of balanced along this tree and put him in. I think Tench Blake's passed him to me, and I've put him in, lowered him down in this nice, clear, non-snaggy margin underneath the tree. Tied the cord around the tree. I've got the rubber torch in my mouth like that. Tied it about 20 knots so he couldn't get off. And I'm just about to turn around like that, and they're very hard to hold for a long time in your mouth at all. You start dribbling and your jaw starts hurting. And I've dropped the bloody thing out of my mouth and it's gone plop straight in the water. I thought, oh, you know, easy come, easy go. And I've seen it tumble over and over and over as it's going down. It's still on, and it's hit the bottom, and the beam's, well, it's practically shining on the fish. It's just still illuminating down there. I thought that they're incredible, those torches, but it's gone now. But anyway, so I came back out, gone back down, had another beer with Tench Blake. He's wandered off, and I've gone to bed like proper chuffed. I've got one, you know. We hadn't weighed it, but it's 30 plus, you know. Wraysbury mirror in the bag. Still gutted about losing the pug, to be honest. But there you go. At least I've sort of turned the situation around a little bit. Bagged myself a mirror. Happy days. Get some sleep, and hopefully, in the morning, who knows, they might be back. Next morning, I'm up bright and early. As I said, got no bivvy, sleeping out under the stars. Mosquitoes were always a nightmare at Wraysbury. All midges, mozzies, anything that could bite you would bite you at Wraysbury. I've got all that going on. Fat Sam's also slept out under a tree. She used to love that, a bit like Maddie now, loves sleeping outdoors. So I woke up bright and early, sat there, probably gone up the tree for a look, thinking I've got that fish in the margins, you know, up there, sacked, that's got to be dealt with. Sat there under a bed chair looking, and then I've heard someone coming along the path, and it turns out it was a guy we used to call a school teacher, because he was a school teacher, and he had 2 golden retrievers. Now, one was a lovely, really friendly dog. The other one was a complete thief. Sam used to get on quite well with these 2 dogs. But one of them was it was a retriever to the bone. It would retrieve things that you hadn't even thrown. And it found it almost impossible to walk past a fisherman without nicking something. So about 5 minutes after it had gone, I saw a couple of bits of soggy bog roll and thought, you'd nicked my bloody bog roll, which was next to the bed. So I went charging up the path. Oi. Sure enough, with a roll of Andrex in its gob. So I've retrieved what was left of it, all covered in slob. I'm halfway back to the swim, and I've heard... I thought, shit, that's in my swim. So I've run back the last few rod lengths around the corner, and there's waves coming, you know, and it's just down there. They're there. Right, you know, it looked like it was right on me spots. I put the bog roll away, put the kettle on, sat there and thought, I ain't even going up the tree. You know, I probably haven't got time for any of this. I'm just going to sit. And it's so close. You know, it's all so close. It's so atmospheric. You know, you're under this overhanging tree. You sat sideways on a bed chair, no bivvy, rod butts right in front of you, fish jumping 2 rod lengths out, rod length and a half out, right there. I sat there and I thought, God, do it again, go on. There's a bit of froth where he's shown, and there's a couple of pinprick bubbles out the back, and I thought, they're here already, you know, first thing, they're here. And I'd made it, like I say, I was making a cup of tea, I was hungry, I turned round like that to get some biscuits or something out of my rucksack. As I turned round, boosh again, I was like, shit, missed it, dearly wanted to see it, because they were so close, you know. I think I'm going to see the next one, but I didn't get a chance, because about 2 seconds later, the right-hand rod just went, wah, and it was gone. Jumped up, hooked into this fish. It didn't really do an awful lot. It didn't go anywhere. I didn't strip any line at all. I just held onto it. I'm confident of my tackle now. And it sort of plodded about in this 4-foot water in front of me. I couldn't get it off the bottom. It was a bit like the Hoover at fault. Just sort of sticking tight to the bottom in front of me, just going up and down, up and down, up and down, up, round and round. And then eventually it's come up and sort of rolled on the surface, and I can see this linear scaling and this deep, lovely looking mirror. I turned around, slid the net under and looked, and it's the short fat linear. Previously, before I walked away from it and Del caught it, hadn't been caught for 11 years. I think this was its second capture in 11 years. It's in my net, short fat linear, and I'd seen him so many times. I'd watched him eat my bait so many times the previous close season, and here he was. I'd got the Hoover down there, I'd got the short fat linear here, everything was coming together, you know. I'd still lost the pug, which was a downer, but, you know, I'd got this dumpy, he's an amazing creature, he's quite an odd shaped thing, proper old Wraysbury character, in the bottom of my net. So up on the bank with him on the mat, put him in a sack, wandered along, put him right next to the hoover, wound in the other rod, and just went charging off to find Tench Bloke. I think Phil was going, or he'd gone first thing, had to go in the morning or something, back to work, his week was up. But I knew Tench Bloke was just up the way. So I went shooting off to get TV to come back and do the photos of these two amazing Wraysbury carp. Tench Bloke and me have trotted back round there, got them out in sort of catch order, if you like, got the hoover out first, weighed him in 33.5 pounds, took some photos. I looked rough as guts in the photos. Definitely need to shave, I know that. Photos, again, like a lot of my photos from Wraysbury, I've got 2 or 3 pics of it, 2 or 3 prints. I might have had more back in the day, I don't know. They're not the best, but you get the rough idea. And I've got the memories in here, so I don't care. Dealt with the hoover, and then got out the short fat linear. Like I say, amazing little puggy creature, sort of strange shaped fella, beautiful deep set scales, a proper old character. 33.5 pound as well, so I had a brace of 33.5 pounders. Dealt with him, put him back. I spent a few hours up the tree. The weather weren't quite the same that day. It got a bit cold actually, to be honest. I sort of knew they weren't coming back after that. Obviously whatever had been with the linear, they would have gone. As the day went on, the weather deteriorated, and I think I went home later that sort of afternoon, determined to return as soon as it warmed up a little bit. But I wasn't sure, to be honest, if the fish would return. I thought now they know now, you know, it's not clubbing season. I've hooked 3 of them, landed 2 of them. You know, the game is up probably. So, you know, would they come back? Wouldn't they come back? At that stage, I didn't know, but I knew they wouldn't come back when the weather was not so clever. You know, it relies on warm weather to get them in there. So, packed everything up and set off for home. Now, as it happens, they would come back, but that is another story, which we will cover in a couple of days' time. So I'm going to stop there. I think I've probably done my hour. Might even be bang on. Who knows? Going to do me obligatory book ads, which will come up here. Obviously, the live link to the website is below. If you do want to take advantage of the lockdown offer on the books, they're on special offer, plus £3 postage and packing, all sent out the next day. Like I said the other day, post is taken all sorts of different times. Starting to get a bit low of flick of the tail, will warn you. Don't know how many yet. I've just asked the warehouse to send me everything they've got left, but I am starting to get a little bit low of those. Apart from that, I think that's about it for today. So thank you for being there, and see you soon. Stay safe, stay at home, and do all the other things you're supposed to do. And we'll be fishing before you know it. Ta-da.